fellow music fans, welcome back to Psychology of Rock. If you're new here, my name's Nina, and today I'm going to be offering my thoughts and analysis of the artwork for two different albums by The Warning, the Mayday EP, which came out in 2021, and the follow-up full-length album Error, which came out the following year. Now, if you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of The Warning. I love all of their work, but there really is a special place in my heart for these two albums because it was actually through the song Evolve that I found the band, and it really did restore my faith in modern rock music. Now, a few weeks ago, I released a video where I discussed my theories on the Keep Me Fed album artwork, and since then, several of you have asked if I would offer some commentary on the artwork for some of the older albums, which I thought sounded like a really fun idea, especially because I really do think that there is something kind of innovative and special about each of them. And the logical thing would be to analyze these albums in order. However, I really wanted to start with Error because it is honestly in my top 10 personal favorite album covers of all time. It's simple, but it's just absolutely perfect and iconic. I think it has a really direct and powerful message, and I never get bored with looking at it. So I felt like I really had to start there. But I also felt like I couldn't talk about the artwork for Error without talking about the artwork for Mayday first, because it's almost like Mayday is the first chapter of a longer story that Error kind of continues on with. Now, if you're not already familiar with these albums, Mayday features 6 out of the 14 tracks that would eventually appear on Error, so of course they are directly related to one another. But I also feel like the artwork is directly linked. So today I want to talk about the somewhat contrasting, but what I believe are also thoughtfully interconnected and potentially thematically linked album covers, what their relationship might be, and whether the artwork is offering the same commentary or if they are actually completely different statements. Now, to be perfectly honest, I have no idea if the band has ever spoken on the inspiration for these album covers or their potential meaning, nor have I ever heard anyone discuss these album covers. So because of this, I'm just going to be looking at them objectively and analyzing them and appreciating them simply as pieces of art. And I have to give the reminder that this is just my own personal opinion. I'm in no way trying to speak for the band. And like all pieces of art, there can of course be potentially multiple interpretations and valid meanings, including whatever the artwork means to us personally. And with all of that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. We'll start with Mayday and then we will move on to Error. Now, if we look at the Mayday cover, even though it's a stunning image, the first thing that you notice is that the girl's face is completely covered. It almost seems like some kind of self-imposed sensory deprivation, which seems a little strange because she's standing in this incredibly beautiful landscape. It's like she's intentionally blocking her vision and cutting herself off from being able to experience this breathtaking scenery around her, which seems to be the most important concept of the artwork. But I do think that what is also interesting about this photo is that even though the girl's face is covered, she still seems somehow strong and almost powerful. She's in a commanding pose and she seems almost unfazed by the limitation of having her eyes covered, almost like she doesn't see it as a disadvantage. So there's a lot to take in here. It definitely does seem to be some kind of a statement, and I really think that contemplating why they chose to cover her face in this photo is likely the key to grasping the possible meaning they had behind the artwork. Now, I also tend to think that the girl in the image represents the feelings of the band, or even the state of society as a whole. So when I say she in this analysis, I think the most likely scenario here is that whatever the girl symbolizes in this context is a broader commentary about humankind and possibly concerns about humankind, or at least the current generation, since one of the songs on both albums is called Z, which I'm assuming is about Gen Z. And again, I don't know what the official intended message of the artwork was meant to be, but I did come up with a few possible interpretations or themes based entirely on the image itself and the idea of the girl having her eyes covered. The first is emotional disconnect and isolation. The girl seems like she might be completely withdrawn into her own thoughts and feelings. Even though she's already physically distant from anyone else, she's still blocking herself off from being aware of or really connecting with anything, including the world around her and maybe even her own feelings. Another thought I had is that it could represent a symbolic blindness and the idea of ignoring situations or problems in life or everything going on in the world. Or it's saying that there are things that we aren't willing to see or believe which could become a barrier to us really facing reality. Going in a completely different direction, the artwork could also be a statement about feeling trapped by societal expectations. While the dress the girl is wearing is really lovely and incredibly elegant, it also covers every inch of her except for her feet. This might be suggesting that she feels pressured to conform or hide or subdue herself, or maybe that she feels that she's unable to truly express herself, or that she feels confined or repressed by societal norms, or even how people feel about women. It might also be showing that she, like most of the world right now, has kind of mentally checked out, and how there's an almost universal loss of wonder and awe that the world is experiencing that seems to be replaced by apathy and disillusionment. So a lot of different theories here, and again, I would love to hear yours, so please keep them going in the comments. But I just think it's a really compelling and thought-provoking image, and overall an extremely striking album cover. And it's also interesting that the beauty and grace of the girl comes through the image even though she is completely covered, almost like she's saying no matter what the setbacks are, that nothing's going to hold her back. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this EP was released the year prior to the follow-up full-length album Error, and I definitely feel like the artwork on these two albums are strongly related. If we look at them side to side, you can see that there are a lot of similarities. If we look at the cover for Error, I think we see the themes of Mayday, but it really takes it to a whole new level. We still have the beautiful, graceful girl in a flowing dress with bare feet, but now she's been pulled out of the magnificent landscape and placed in a bare, sterile, almost warehouse-looking room with fluorescent lighting. And she still has a blindfold, but this time it's a VR headset, making it seem even more ominous. And once again, she seems completely oblivious to this symbolic blindness. She actually seems like she is happily dancing in this photo. Now, given the subject matter of many of the songs on this album, as well as their previous albums, and the direct reference of the song title Z that appears on this album as well, I think the most obvious statement here is a warning about Gen Z's relationship with technology. I think one of the biggest differences between the idea of the artwork in Mayday versus Error is that one is blindfolded in nature, whereas the other has escaped completely into a virtual world, suggesting that this generation is starting to prefer fabricated experiences over real-life engagement. We have to remember that these albums were written right before, during, and right after the pandemic, when everyone was completely isolated due to lockdowns and social distancing. I think the pandemic blurred the lines between the physical and digital worlds for many people because there was such a sharp increase in all of our screen time, and we had no choice but to rely on virtual communication. And in a way, I think the Error cover art might reflect a complete disconnection from reality and show that we are really starting to enter a whole new world now. The girl doesn't even seem to be aware that she's in this cold, empty room, and she seems perfectly content without any real-world interaction. I think the contrast between the girl and the background is absolutely brilliant and really effective in conveying the overall message. So in essence, I see the artwork as another warning from the warning, and I love the connection between the Mayday EP and its follow-up because the girl, and I don't know if it's supposed to be the same character or even if it's one of the members of the band, but they have this progression down the rabbit hole from being blindfolded in the real world to being blindfolded in a completely curated environment being projected through a VR headset. I honestly love the artwork on both of these albums, but as I said earlier, I really feel like Error has one of the most iconic and brilliant covers of all time, and I really appreciate how much thought the band gives to all of their media. And even if today's analysis does not end up lining up with their intended meaning, and only the band knows for sure, I think the cover itself is food for thought, which I think is one of the most important aspects of any piece of art in any genre. And of course, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts and theories on these album covers. You always have amazing interpretations and insights. I love reading through them, so don't forget to leave a comment down below. Also, if anyone knows if the band has ever spoken about these album covers, please let me know what they had to say. I think it would be absolutely fascinating to hear their point of view. But that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's analysis. Please let me know what you want me to cover next. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week.